Welcome to part 4 of our CSS sprites exercise. We're just about to wrap this up, so I just want to review where we are. In the last exercise, we built out the dimensions of the list structure represented by the red borders on this list structure to make it match the graphic that we put on the background of the UL tag for the whole list. So we gave each one of these LI tags and anchor tags width and height dimension. The height was universal across the whole thing, whereas the width was unique for each one on each anchor tag. So now we're ready to go in and actually put in place the hover effect to make this actually be interactive. So here's what I'm going to do, okay? I'm going to take one of these and I'm just going to copy it, right? And I'm going to put that down here, paste it in place. And this is going to be the same thing, list, colon, and I'm going to put in hover. Now, if you remember, this is called a pseudo class, and this allows you to add interactive states to particular items in HTML that actually have various states, and anchor tags happen to be one of them. Now, we're not going to do exactly the same thing as we did above. What we are going to do is I'm going to take this out here, is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the background. Okay, so I'm going to go here and let's do my background here. So I'll say background image and I'll say UL, and we're going to put in that navigation item. Now remember, the benefit here is that we're not loading multiple images simultaneously. We're doing this with one image, okay? And this one image, when it downloads the first time and is on the background of the list, is already going to be in the browser cache. So all of the interactive states are on this image already. If you remember, taking a look at it, here's our image, and this is the top part of this is our navigation, what we see currently, and below it are all the hover states, which are a little bit darker in gray, and the text is white, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to put that on as a background image on this particular anchor tag when we hover over it. So unlike the first image, which is on the list or the whole navigation, this background image is only going to be on the individual list item and anchor tag. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, let's do background image, put the graphic there, and then we're going to say background dash, let me see what we have here. I'm going to put position, right? And we're going to say 0 for the x-axis, right? And 111px for the y-axis. Does that sound right? So it's going to move it up to 111. Now let's see if that works. Okay, so here's our graphic here. All right, there's the reload. So you'll see as I interact with it, you see how when I roll over it, I get the apple, the dark one, only on that little spot. Because remember, this little spot right here has a second background image on it, which represents what? It represents the hover effect, right? And so what we're doing is we're saying instead of it being, so let's look at this image real quick here, right? So we're saying instead of positioning it so that the upper left-hand corner is here at coordinate 0, 0, we're saying put the upper left-hand corner right here at 0 and 36, right? Now I said 36 here, right? You notice how that's over to here, right? That's the number I want, 111, right? So if I look at this here, where's my preview here? Sorry, there it is, right? You see I get that apple there, okay? So what it does is it's raising that up to be the background image, okay? Does that make sense? So let's try the next one here. Whoop, let me just cancel that here, okay? So let's do the next one. So I'll go edit, copy, and let's try this one now. Okay, and this is going to be list 2, right? So now if I do a quick save all on that and then come here and do the same thing, right, you'll see there's the apple. Now here it doesn't work, right? It's not working there, okay? Now let's see why, because it looks like my numbers are off, right? So the question is, well, what does the number need to be? Well, let's think about it, okay? So if we want, here's nav, if we want this to be 0 and this to be 35 or 36 or 38. Let's do 38, okay? I put it at 112, so that means I took that x value. I was thinking incorrectly. I need to do that at 38 here. Now the y value is going to change exponentially each time. But for the first one, the x value is going to be 0 and the y value is going to be 38. So let's try that. So I'm going to put 38 here for both of these. And I will save this. File, save all. And let's bring this in. And you'll see there's the apple. And still nothing here. Why is that? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because right now you're seeing the interaction here, but you're only seeing it appear here, not here. And that's because these values are the same, 0 and 0. So for this one, we have to change it. And this one would be 111. Right? Why 111? Because that's the width that we made for that. Right? So let's do a save all and see how that refreshes. Okay? So now I'll bring this over here and you see there's Apple, right? And they're stored. Now it looks like I did it way too much. The number's way high. And that could be for a few things. Okay? It could be because of the fact that I have borders on this and that's taken up a pixel on each side. So in order to test that, what I could do is I could say let's take away these borders on all of these. At least let's do the first two, right? And we'll say file, save all. And now you'll see there's my first two, right? So there's Apple and there's store. So it's still a bit off, okay? And you'll see that I'm seeing the end of this. So I'm like, what is going on there? Okay? So something's wrong with my logic. And I'll tell you what's wrong with my logic. What's wrong with my logic is that this needs to be a minus number, right? So let's try and save that all, right? And we'll do a refresh on that. Okay, so now if I bring this over here, you'll see there's my apple and there's my store. There's my apple, there's my store. Now, why does it have to be a negative number? That makes no sense. Well, it makes perfect sense if you think about it. Because here's what's happening. Think about the image. The image is on this little square space as a background, and what we're doing is we're shifting it up. Now, if you understand the XY coordinate system in a browser, you'll know that this point right here is coordinate 0, 0. And as you move forward, it moves positively. Right? So here's 100, here's 200, here's 300, 400. Whereas if you move to the left, that's negative space. So we're moving this graphic to the left in order to make it see store. Right? So therefore, it has to be a negative number. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay? Just like if we were moving it up, that would be a negative number. So realistically, maybe this should be a negative number too. Let's see if I'm right about that. So let's say file, save. And when I refresh this here, right, you'll see there's my store and there's my apple, right? So that seems to be working, okay? So here's what we're going to do. Now that we have this working, I'm going to go here and I'm going to copy this and I'm going to propagate it out. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And we'll do the same thing. So that's 1, 2, and I'll change the IDs. 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm sorry, 5. Whoop, I did twice. 5, 6, and 7. Okay? And now all you really need to do here is match the x value to the value that's here, right? So now I should be able to do this one as minus 118, right? And I should be able to do the next one as 124. And then I think it was 123. Sorry, I didn't get a good look at that above. So it's 124, 123, and 135. So we'll do 23, and then 35. And then finally, let's see, 31 and 18. So we'll say, well, 31. And the last one should be fine. So let's see how that works out. Okay, because the first one starts at 0, so you don't need the last one, okay? So let's do a quick save on that. And basically, we'll try to see how that looks in our browser real quick. So there it is. And you'll see there's store. Okay, now they're all store at this point. Okay, so something's wrong. And what is wrong? Does anybody have any idea? Well, let's take a peek at this and see if we can figure it out. So they all seem to be the same as this one, right? And maybe that's why. Let's try it. Now it could be off also. Let's see. So they're all store. Okay. So let's go here and see if we can figure this out. So the y, this is always the y is always going to be minus 38. Okay, and the x is going to be a different value. Now here's the thing. See, this is where it gets fun. Because that's not the width, and this is what's throwing us off here. So you see there's the width. So now you got to add these numbers back together, which makes this kind of a drag. Okay, so what I'm going to recommend you do is go back here and say, okay, so if that's 111, right, that would be 230, right, and that would be 357 or 359 I'm going to put. So let's try that. So we're going to say 231 and 359. So let's try those two. So we'll say 231 and 359. And let's see how that works out. Okay? So let's see. So there's that one, and there's that one. Okay? Now we'll take off these borders in a minute. Okay? But you'll see, because of the way we're positioning this, it's not actually the width of the item like we did previously. It's actually the XY position. So using this nav and using this crosshairs right here to come up with that position will work. Okay, so there's 359, and there is 585 and 621. So I'll try those two values. So we'll say 585 and 621, was it? I think that's what it was, right? So let's do a save all, and now we'll refresh this. Okay, so there's the iPod, and it's starting to get a little off, so I might have to look at those values a bit. Okay, especially here, where the especially the iPhone one, I think I might have screwed that one up. So let me go back here to the nav and look at the iPhone value. Yeah, I have 622 here, so something's off. So I have to take a quick peek at that and see. So let me just see what I got here. So I said 585 and 621, right? So there's that one. And the downloads works. So the last one works. It's just that one is wrong. So it seems like I got this guy right here wrong. So let's go back and take a peek at that. So that would be this one right here, 621. And what is this supposed to be? Okay, so I just added that 585 in for no reason. Okay, so this one right here is 621, and this one right here is 753. So let's plug those in. Okay, so we'll say 621, and then right here will be 753. Right, and that looks like, well, we're going to have to see about that. So let's save all, and let's do a refresh on that. Okay, so that's downloads. Yeah, you see that's still screwed up. I got to look at that one. Yeah, something wacky's going on here. Let me see what I got. Okay, so I have 359. So if we look at that, 359 is that one right there. It's Mac. Okay, so on the next one, which is number 4, should be 485. So let's do them one at a time. Okay, so we'll make this one 485, right? And I'll test it. So that's good, and that's good. So all these are good, right? That one's wacky. Okay, so let's do iPhone now. So now if I go into iPhone and I put my crosshair and get that X position, 622. Okay, so now let's do 622, right? So we'll say File, Save All, and bring that in here. Let's do a refresh on that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. It's pretty close. Some of my values might be a little off. I might have to tweak them a bit, but you could do that at the end, okay? And then finally, we have our last one, which looks like it's going to be this guy right there, 753. Right? So we'll say 753. And we'll do a quick save all on that. Whoop. Sorry about that. I hit the wrong one. File, save all. And let's do a refresh on this. So there's support, and there's downloads, and there's iPhone. Okay, so now I'm going to take away all these borders just to see how it works out. My numbers may be off a wee bit. Okay, so we'll take all these borders out just so that I can see it clean. Because remember, a border does take up a pixel. And when you're trying to do an exact technique like this, every pixel matters. Okay, so we'll do a save all on that and do a refresh. So now all the borders are gone, right? And okay, so that's a little off, and that little off just grows exponentially as we go forward. So it starts here, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'd probably have to tweak this a little bit. So maybe what I'll do is let's do this. I could go here and say, okay, let's not make that 111. Let's make that a little bigger. Let's maybe make it 1-1. Well, not so sure that it's that I got to tweak. It looks like it's the width I have to tweak, right? So let's try the width here. So maybe make that 113. Right, so you see as I start tweaking this, right? Okay, so that looks a little better, right? So now the next one should maybe be, let's try 120. Right? And we'll do a refresh on that. So yeah, you see how I'm kind of guiding it. I don't know if you could see that really quick there. I'm kind of using, you see the line there? I'm using that as my guide, okay? And I can see that essentially I'm a little off on my widths, right? So I have to make those perfect. So maybe it's 121 here. Yeah, so that's better. Right, so pretty much I would go through each of them and tweak the widths on them. So maybe that's 127. Right. Right, so I'm getting closer. Right. All you have to do is get those widths all right, and you should be good to go. And this effect is pretty much, well, not quite done. There are some things we need to do here. So let me do a quick refresh on this. Okay. And now it looks like I'm overshooting it. Right, you see how I'm kind of, this one's going a little too far, right? So I have the third one, 1, 2, 3, number 4. It's a little off, so I made it 128. Let me try 126. Right, so let's see. Oh, so that's a lot better. Yeah, right. And that actually looks pretty good. The last one's off a little bit, so I might want to deal with that somewhat. You know, maybe make the last one be, make the width be a little bit bigger. So let's try 120. Maybe it's 120. Let's try 121. That looks good, right? So I'll do a quick save on that. And let's just see what we get there. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So now that's pretty close, right? There might be a little more tweaking I want to do. But there is one more thing I'd like to do here. We still got to get rid of those blue links, right? Now the blue links are useful, okay? Don't get me wrong. In the end, we're just going to make them be gone. But the blue links are useful for two reasons. One, the regular blue text links are required for an anchor tag. You have to have something to interact with that's in between an opening and closing anchor tag. That's kind of a rule of that tag. So that's the first thing. You have to have that. Second, when you use graphics for your navigation, search engines can't read those graphics. And basically, they don't understand what those graphics say or what they're representing visually. So having a text element there to tell a search engine spider or robot what the name of that navigation item is helpful for something called SEO or search engine optimization. So essentially, this is good. So we do want to get rid of this though for our visual effect, right? So what we're going to do is the last style we're going to put on here is we're going to say span, and we're going to say display none. As you know, we talked about this before, that is going to get rid of this element. I'm going to do a save all on that and a refresh. And you'll see when I bring this in, now I have my interactive effect. Still might need a little tweaking. I'm seeing some of the borders there. But basically, it's functional. And you get the general idea. This idea of a sprite is used in a lot of different websites. Facebook, Amazon.com, YouTube. Think about it with all those little small icons they have that you can interact with to say, hey, thumbs up, or to say, I like this, or anything along those lines. Imagine if you had to load all of those graphics on the screen for each one of those. That would be pretty taxy and a lot of downloads from the server. Whereas if you use one giant sprite sheet for that, all you gotta do is move the background position and you'll get what you want. So there you go. Thank you very much. Enjoy.